Let's make a start. Welcome everyone. I would first like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land on which we gather this evening, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, their ancestors and creator spirits. So it is my immense pleasure to welcome everyone here on Zoom tonight. We would like to extend a heartfelt thank you for all of you coming online this evening to help us to celebrate the launch of our report, Bridging the Department's Visa Blindspot. This is the result of 2 years of research and work into the issue of bridging visas for refugees and people seeking asylum in Australia. So I thought I'd better start by briefly introducing RAP for those of you who haven't heard of us before. The Rights Advocacy Project is a community of lawyers and activists working for fairer laws for all Australians. We are part of and run under the guidance and supervision of Liberty Victoria. Liberty is one of Australia's leading civil liberty organisations and has been working to defend and extend human rights and freedoms in Victoria since 1936. So the Rights Advocacy Project runs each year by a selected group of volunteers, and we work across a range of issues including equality, government and accountability, criminal justice reform, Indigenous and refugee and asylum seeker rights. So we, the refugee and asylum seeker team, began in 2019 exploring certain laws that are preventing people seeking asylum from obtaining a valid bridging visa, and therefore being able to access basic fundamental supports. This include the right to work, access education, Medicare and income support, while individuals are waiting in the community for their refugee protection claims to be assessed. We believe that this is an incredibly important issue needing attention in the advocacy space right now, as the realities of not being able to apply for a bridging visa are very serious for a large cohort of people. And this issue attracts far less attention than the protection visa process for obvious reasons. So a bridging visa is a temporary visa which allows people to remain lawfully in the community while they are assessed as refugees by the Department of Home Affairs. As refugee protection claims often take multiple years, bridging visas become a critical lifeline for people seeking asylum during this time, enabling them to live lawfully and freely in the Australian community as human beings. Despite this, under Section 46A, 46B, and 91K of the Migration Act, certain cohorts of people are being what we called statutorily barred from applying or being granted a bridging visa. The only option left for them is an intervention by the Minister of Home Affairs, using their godlike powers to lift this bar. Very little is known about the considerations which persuade the Minister to personally grant a visa or to lift the bar and to allow an individual to apply for a bridging visa. So the aim of our report was to go beyond the political debate in Australia and examine the operation of these laws and their impact on human rights. So I won't spend too much time going into the findings of our research because our wonderful panel of speakers here tonight will be able to speak to many of the findings as they share with us their personal experience or area of expertise on the main issues relating to bridging visas. The one thing I will mention, however, is that we discovered that there is no clear rationale or policy argument behind the operation of these provisions. Our research demonstrated that denying rights, security and stability provided by a bridging visa to people seeking asylum and refugees not only significantly impacts their mental and physical health, but it puts enormous strain on the community organisations that end up supporting them. Especially when you place this into the current context of COVID-19, having refugees living as unlawful citizens can be a public health concern. Without a bridging visa, many people seeking asylum are weathering this crisis without the stability of affordable housing, material aid, and accessible medical care. There has also been confusion about the eligibility of people in this situation to access COVID-19 testing and vaccination, even though both are meant to be free and available for everyone. We further discovered through the Freedom of Information requests that not only does the system by which the bar is lifted by the minister lack transparency, but also that the government has little to no insight of how many people are left to languish in the community as a result of the decisions to deny bridging visas by the Morrison government. Now, before I introduce our expert panel to you, who will be addressing you this evening, I want to make some brief acknowledgements to people without we would not be sharing our work with tonight. Firstly, to Maria O'Sullivan and Joel Townsend, our two amazing supervisors who have supported us through the whole process and who were both fundamental in determining the issues we have presented in our report. Rochelle Francis, our wonderful steering committee member, who has done so much behind the scenes work and who got married on Saturday and is on her honeymoon in Tasmania at the moment, but is nonetheless logged in on Zoom supporting us. We'd also like to say a big thank you to Emma Buckley, Annie Kingston, and all the RAP committee for their ongoing support, as well as the facilitation of Liberty Victoria. Michael Purcell did a fabulous job with the graphic design, Rowena Lloyd and Sunny Bazani, who created our advocacy animation, which will be premiering for the first time after the Q&A, so stay tuned. Lastly, our team, who unfortunately, some of which could not be here this evening, but who played an incredibly important role in our report. As is the case with a long ongoing project in the middle of a pandemic. From the beginning, we all started in Melbourne and now we've slowly spread across the globe. So I'll just mention the authors of our report: Benin Sabrini, Emma Blakely, Kate Verenin, Sandruta Varaskara, Sione Pemberton, Zoe Brown, and myself, Isabella Farrell-Hallegraf. So now I'd like to introduce you to Sean Hans, who will be officially launching our report. Sean is a former public servant who has worked in the Refugee Assessment Program in the Department of Home Affairs. In 2018, in October, he left his job in the department to argue that the refusal to resettle refugees on Nauru and Manus Island in Australia was futile and unnecessary. Later that year, he joined the successful lobbying effort to get the Medivac legislation over the line against the coalition's government's wishes. Sean wrote the foreword of our report, and he gave us the inspiration for the name, Bridging the Department's Visa Blindspot. So thank you, Sean. Over to you.
Thanks, Isabella, and welcome everybody. First of all, I'd just like to start by congratulating, I want to say the RAP team, but that kind of sounds really weird and freaky, so I'm just going to go with the Rights Advocacy Project team on a report that really looks at something that's quite easy to overlook within the refugee assessment system, because there's so many other hot topics to look at there. So well done, guys. And also for coming up with solutions that are potentially politically palatable, particularly given the recent removal of Dutton and potentially Puzzulo following. So there's actually potential for change on issues such as this in the area suddenly for the first time in quite a while. So yeah, well done. So just to start things off, I just want to give people a bit of a context of roughly how many people are likely to be affected by, first of all, the people that will be barred from bridging visas, which are almost exclusively the IMA or UMA, or irregular maritime arrival cohort. But then looking also into the air arrivals that we've had recently to kind of show how many people are out there that don't have rights to education, healthcare, work rights, and financial support kind of benefits. So start with, I guess, the easiest group to look at is the fast track applicants that we've had. And for anyone that's not aware of this, fast track is the government's assessment program that's been going since about 2015 for the so-called legacy caseload of about 30,000 people that arrived between about 2012 to mid 2013. So that was due to end about the middle of 2018, and it's dragged on and on and on to the point where it's looking likely the middle of next year that we'll finally have a result of those kind of the first round, I guess, of assessments in that space. That so far has left about 8,500 people who have been refused and then denied at the review stage as well. That group of people are probably the most likely people presently to be denied these bridging visas, and even though they haven't left the country and may have legal tests going on, not legal tests, sorry, court cases going through the courts at the moment, because often that's how the assessment process works. It can take not just a couple of years, but 7, 8, 9, 10 years for people to go through all of the different levels of review that are open to them. So that's probably the first cohort that you're going to see affected by this, mainly, but obviously some people in the review stage will also be getting denied this because it is quite arbitrary, the way that these visas are doled out. The second group, which is going to be affected now, is likely to be the effectively where the government is at the moment is we're starting to reassess temporary protection visas and safe haven enterprise visas. And so that means that you're going to have a large group of people who previously were refugees that are going to suddenly be dumped onto the not refugee pile. And they're going to eventually go through the whole process again. Largely, you're going to see that be the Sri Lankan cohort. I can't speak to what exactly is happening in the department, but because of the difference in country conditions between 2012 and 2021, you'll see a large number of people potentially who have suffered through torture and other horrific things that have happened in Sri Lanka suddenly kind of lose a refugee status, and they'll be fighting to get that back for obvious reasons. If you've been tortured in the country, you're not likely to want to go back there. So that's the next cohort that's probably going to add on to that group of people that are going to be affected by this issue. But moving beyond that, moving beyond just the IMA space, if you look at what's happening, I think in the media they kind of call it the air arrival space, that actually hasn't slowed down significantly during the pandemic. You'd expect there would have been a reduction in the overall number of applications coming through, but that isn't what's occurred. So far in this financial year, I think we've had about 9,000 applicants come through. And in total, in the assessment system, in the air arrival space, there's about 58,000 people who have been refused at the primary level at least, that haven't been removed from the country. And there's about 34,000 people that are still awaiting assessment. That number of people that have been refused at the primary level is increasing by about 1,000 a month. And the number of people that we actually have leaving the country after being refused a protection visa is no more than 20 in any given month. So every month, that large number of people who may not be entitled to a bridging visa, but may have their applications at different levels through the assessment process, is just growing and growing and growing. So this isn't something that's only affecting a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand people. This is, the report, I guess, in essence, describes what life is like for tens of thousands of people in the community at the moment. And we can only expect that number to grow into the longer term. So I guess that's all I wanted really to say. It's just to kind of like wrap that up all for you. So it is a quite significant issue, and it's going to be an issue that kind of follows, that is difficult for Australia to deal with for quite some time into the future. So particularly as there's no real strategy as to how to deal with any of these groups of people, there's just somewhat an indifferent approach from the government. So I think it's important work that kind of highlights exactly what life is like for these people and really what we're doing, and we need to kind of like find a way to do better effectively. I'll send it back to you guys.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for your valuable insights into this issue. And for everyone who reads our report, yeah, Sean did a wonderful forward at the start, so be sure to keep an eye out. So now I'd like to welcome our panel of speakers this evening. Our panel has been carefully selected to deliver an array of different perspectives on the issue of bridging visas, as we have covered them in our report. So each speaker will have an opportunity to speak to their personal experience or area of expertise, followed by a short Q&A from the audience. So I'll just remind you, if questions arise during each speaker's talk, please pop them in the chat function, and Sione will be collecting them at the end to deliver to each speaker. And this also applies to Sean as well, if you have questions for him. So I'll just quickly introduce our panel. So for our first speaker, Greg Hansen, he is a Law Institute of Victoria accredited specialist in immigration law. Greg has over 17 years of personal experience practicing in refugee protection and general immigration law, and he's currently employed as a senior lawyer in Victoria Legal Aid's migration team. Prior to this, Greg held roles as a senior lawyer and policy officer at Refugee Legal, and before that, he was a senior lawyer at the Migration Review Tribunal and Refugee Review Tribunal and Department of Immigration. Greg has also worked for the UNHCR in East Africa in a refugee status determination role, deciding sensitive and legal complex caseloads. So in amongst all of this, Greg is also a member of the Law Institute of Victoria's Immigration Law Advisory Committee, and he's also a policy committee member at Liberty Victoria. Secondly, we will hear from Sister Bridget Arthur. Bridget has been advocating for the increasing needs of people seeking asylum and refugees in our society since 2001. Bridget, along with another colleague, began the Brigidine Asylum Seeker Project, BASP, which is a Melbourne-based initiative and provides practical experience to many hundreds of people seeking asylum in our community. BASP assists with accommodation, food, friendship, job assistance, accessing legal help, and managing practical issues. Before this, Bridget has also had a long and passionate career as an educator in the Catholic secondary schools throughout Victoria. She has been a consultant with Catholic schools in the Gippsland area and the executive officer for a group that organised a set of new structures and governance of schools and community works. Bridget was very instrumental in speaking to the community impact side of our report and has been a wonderful support throughout the project. And we have Don Khan and Ishmael Hussein. We're very lucky to hear from both these men today. Don is a 24-year-old Rohingya refugee from Myanmar. He was detained for 7 years in Papua New Guinea and then brought over to Australia for medical treatment in June 2019 under the repealed Medivac legislation. Ishmael is a 28-year-old Somalian national who arrived in Australian waters in November 2013 and was held on Manus Island until last November. Both men are being cruelly and indefinitely held in the Parkville Detention Hotel in Melbourne, along with 24 other Medivac refugees without any explanation of why they cannot leave. So Don and Ishmael will be talking to us about the individual experience of being unable to attain a bridging visa by the government while they receive medical treatment in Australia. And we're here to hear you out, Don and Ishmael. So I'll pass over to Greg Hansen first. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Isabella. And thank you, Sean, for your very useful insights and analysis. Good evening, all. Thank you for attending this launch tonight, and Ramadan Mubarak to all our friends observing Ramadan at the moment. I'd like to start by also commending RAP and the authors Benin, Emma, Isabella, Kate, Samudya, Sione and Zoe on their achievement in drafting a report of exceptional quality and what is really quickly becoming an invaluable advocacy resource for the sector. I've been, as Isabella mentioned, I've been tasked with speaking to the Australian legal framework relevant to this issue, rather than sort of listing the statutory provisions and the judicial authority relevance to these circumstances. I hope my hosts won't mind if I instead try to cover some of the key features of Australian migration law more broadly that have led to the situation that the report so aptly covers. I'll also speak about some of my own observations in my years working in this field and representing clients affected by this scheme. So I'll start by saying, as I see it, there are two central themes or issues specific to Australian migration law that's really led to this current state of affairs, affecting bridging visas that the report speaks to. So first, what the High Court of Australia has referred to as the binary nature of migration law in our country. So the core provisions of the Migration Act are structured around there only really being two legal statuses a person can have in Australia if they're not an Australian citizen. So either they hold a visa that's in effect and therefore they're a lawful non-citizen, or they don't hold any visa and then they're considered an unlawful non-citizen. In Australia, we have a system of mandatory immigration detention. So that binary unlawful, lawful distinction mandates that all unlawful non-citizens, people who don't have a visa, they must be detained and held in immigration detention until which time they're granted a visa or removed from Australian territory. So generally speaking, there are no exceptions to this rule. But I say generally speaking because last year the High Court ruled in a case called Love and Toms that it doesn't apply to Aboriginal Australians who would otherwise be non-citizens under the Act. So, but I mean, as interesting as that is, it's not relevant to why we're here tonight. So in all other cases, the Migration Act provides that a non-citizen without a visa must be held in immigration detention until which time they granted a visa or removed from Australia. So as you might expect, there may be many times when a person's becomes without a visa. So a person's substantive visa might cease while they're waiting to apply, while they've applied for another visa and they're waiting to be granted that other visa. So in most circumstances, that person is eligible to apply for a bridging visa that bridges the gap while they're waiting, while their last visa's ended and their new visa is granted to them. So that bridging visa ensures that they remain lawful and therefore protected from being placed in immigration detention while that visa is being processed. So if that bridging visa is refused for some reason, that person generally would have access to merits review at a tribunal and then following that judicial review in the courts of that bridging visa refusal. They have legal avenues, legal rights available to them that they can exercise to pursue that visa and avoid immigration detention. So, but however, as I touch on next, people who arrive in Australia by boat without a visa are generally unable to unilaterally apply for a bridging visa or any visa. In this regard, they're not legally entitled to control their own unlawful status, which then makes them liable to being detained through no fault of their own, or even if they are granted a bridging visa, being refused work rights or access to Medicare without any way to challenge these denials. So the second theme that I'd like to touch on in Australian migration law is successive Australian governments who want for a better word, penchant for creating new statutory mechanisms designed to prevent people seeking asylum who arrive in Australia by boat from exercising legal rights and being afforded due process in the assessment of their protection claims. So the rationale over the years for these barriers to prevent these people from accessing legal rights has consistently been stated by successive coalition and Labor governments as providing a disincentive for people contemplating travel to Australia by boat to seek asylum. As John Howard, former Prime Minister of Australia, famously stated in the midst of the Tamper Affair in 2001, we will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come. The most well-known of these legislative mechanisms created by these governments to prevent people from exercising their legal rights is commonly referred in the sector as the Unauthorised Maritime Arrival Bar, or the UMA bar, or the boat bar. This concerns a provision in the Migration Act that can essentially be described as a legal fiction. It provides that any person who arrives in Australia by boat seeking asylum is not taken to have arrived in Australia for the purpose of the Migration Act. So most importantly, for people affected by this, it means that legally prohibited or barred from making an application for any visa unless and until the Minister of the day personally considers it in the public interest to do so, and then or grants them a visa on that basis of the Minister's choosing. A similar statutory bar also applies to persons who have been transferred to Australia for medical treatment from Nauru and PNG, from the regional processing centres there. So in the same way, these people are also legally barred from applying for any visas, including bridging visas. And so these people, those people, including Don and Ishmael, who we are very grateful to have with us tonight, will speak about their own experiences in this regard later on. So critically, this ministerial power can only be exercised by the Minister personally, and the Minister can't be compelled under law to consider it. It's a non-compellable power. So this and the other personal powers of the Minister were also explored in detail in the Rights Advocacy Project's early report, Playing God, the Immigration Minister's Unrestrained Powers, which has also been an invaluable advocacy resource for the sector as well over the years. To understand this statutory bar properly, it helps to know the history behind it. It was introduced by the Howard government in 2001 in response to the Tamper Affair, which I referred to earlier. Often when people interested in this topic, when we talk about how Australian migration law and policy came to discriminate so harshly against people who arrived on our shores by boat seeking safety from our country, we invariably end up with the Tamper Affair. So many of you might recall or know this event, but for those who don't, I'll try and quickly summarise. So in mid-2001, there were about 430 or so asylum seekers aboard a vessel north of Australian international waters. It was in distress. There was the Coast Guard sent out a distress call for ships, and in accordance with maritime law, a tanker referred to as the Tamper went to the rescue. So most of those rescued were Afghan Hazaras fleeing the Taliban, who were in control of Afghanistan at the time. So in compliance with its maritime law obligations, the Norwegian captain of the Tamper vessel then sought to direct that vessel to Australian waters to allow those rescued to access urgent medical attention, because that was the closest point of land or access to medical care at that time. The Australian government warned the Tamper not to enter Australian waters, and when the vessel refused to comply, Australian Armed Special Forces boarded that vessel and took control of it. So a fight in the courts followed, and I think it was Liberty Victoria and its immediate past president, Julian Burnside QC, who represented the people aboard that vessel, the asylum seekers, men, women and children, in an unlawful detention case. That Tamper event was as many would recall, was highly politicised at the time, and it happened only a few months out from the federal election, at a quite a particularly sensitive time when the Howard government were trailing Labor in the polls, and were really worried about appearing weak on border security, and were being criticised by certain sections of the media for doing so. So the Tamper Affair has been described by many commentators as the turning point in migration law, when people seeking asylum were then cast by the government and sections of the media as illegals. And coinciding, that event also coinciding with a raft of legislative reforms aimed at making it difficult as possible for people who arrive in Australia by boat seeking asylum to exercise their legal rights to have their refugee claims assessed. So as well as this boat bar, it was also in the midst of this Tamper Affair that the Howard government devised the first iteration of the offshore processing regime that we know and that Don and Ishmael have been so cruelly subjected to as well. So where has this led us to? So for people who arrive by boat seeking asylum, due to that mandatory detention regime and the bar on them applying for visas on arrival in Australia, the law and the law demanding that they being held in immigration detention until which time the minister personally decides it's in the public interest for them to be allowed to apply or be granted a bridging visa to leave detention. So those people are forced to wait on their arrival in detention in the hope that the minister will eventually invite them to lodge an application so they can remain in Australia, and then further that, so that they can have their refugee claims assessed. It helps to compare that process with that for people asylum seekers who arrive by plane. So asylum seekers arriving by plane at an airport in Australia, they're immediately eligible to lodge an application for a protection visa. That application automatically applies for a bridging visa for them as well. A delegate of the minister is legally obligated to consider that bridging visa application. When granted, that bridging visa then continues in effect until the end of the time when the Australian government finishes assessing that protection visa process, however many years it may take. And generally that visa application will carry work rights and access to Medicare. If that bridging visa is refused by the minister's delegate, then that person can apply for merits review of that decision and then judicial review after that if it's required. So it is this combination of the binary lawful, unlawful mandatory detention structure of the migration legislation and the denial of the right for people who arrive by boat to unilaterally apply for visas that has laid the foundation for what has been so accurately captured in the report. So now I might just, if we have time, I might just go over briefly touch on a few of the relevant experiences and observations in my time representing people seeking asylum who arrive by boat. So first, of the most recent cohort of 30,000 or so people who arrived by boat in 2012 and 13, who were not transferred to Manus Island and Nauru. So many of them were forced to wait a year or more in immigration detention before the minister of the day finally granted them a short-term bridging visa so they could be released into the community. It then took another 5 or so years before many of them were personally invited by the minister to apply for a protection visa so that their refugee claims could be assessed by the Australian government. And as the report discusses, in the meantime, many of their bridging visas had expired, and for some, the minister had not exercised his personal powers to grant them a new visa or permit them to lodge one themselves. So, and also others were arbitrarily granted bridging visas without the right to work or access Medicare or any other avenue, without any avenue to have that rectified. So these events led to many, through no fault of their own, being forced into destitution, exploitation and dependence on the charity or others for food and shelter. Sister Bridget Arthur will no doubt speak more about this after me. Importantly, for those whose bridging visas expired, if that person attended an immigration office to inquire about that bridging visa or getting a new bridging visa. As I mentioned before, the mandatory detention regime in Australia demanded that they be detained and placed in immigration detention immediately because they were an unlawful non-citizen. I remember hearing these absurd stories, such as the immigration office in Canberra got word of a busload of asylum seekers that were on their way to the office with an advocate to inquire about their expired bridging visas, and the office promptly closed its doors to the public and shut the office so that those people, the asylum seekers, couldn't actually enter the office, and then they wouldn't be obligated to detain those people. But that's a good, I think that's sort of a good illustration on how powerless even the immigration officers were to rectify the situation that those people are in due to their expired bridging visas. And also, many people might not know, but due to state and territory police being under a similar obligation under migration law as departmental officers, if a person who has a lapsed bridging visa is stopped by police for any reason, including a routine traffic stop, anything, then those police officers have no choice but to detain that person in police custody, until which time they can be transferred to an immigration detention facility. So due to this harsh operation of the mandatory detention regime, large numbers of people were detained and placed in immigration detention through no fault of their own, while others lived in hiding, terrified of this occurring to them while waiting for a new bridging visa. For most, the only accessible avenue was and still is to contact the immigration department by phone or email to ask the minister to consider them for a new bridging visa. So they'd be entirely reliant on a departmental officer to escalate a submission to the minister's office with their name on the list, requesting the minister consider his or her personal non-compellable power to permit them to apply for a bridging visa, or for the minister to grant them one personally. So as you might expect, as we found, due to the busy schedule of Home Affairs and immigration ministers, it wasn't uncommon, it's not uncommon today for there to be extended delays before the minister actually gets around to considering those requests. In the meantime, that the person affected may remain in immigration detention unlawful in the community, or in the community unable to work legally or access Medicare, and dependent on the charity of others. So in such circumstances, as a lawyer representing these clients, I speak from experience, there's next to nothing that can be done to challenge this or force the minister to consider their case. So judicial authority from the courts makes this very clear. It's a non-compellable personal power of the minister. So the same applies if the minister considers the request, but opts not to exercise his or her power in the person's favour, or arbitrarily grants the person a bridging visa without work rights or access to Medicare or the right to study. So there's no way to challenge those decisions. To this day, many of those 30,000 or so people in that cohort that I mentioned earlier that arrived in 2012-13 are still waiting for the Australian government to finalise the processing of their protection visa applications. Further, for those whose protection visa applications are unsuccessful and who applied to the Federal Circuit Court for judicial review, currently I would estimate those judicial proceedings in Victoria, at least, to be taking between 4 and 6 years. That's just the first stage of the court process, and doesn't include any subsequent appeals that they might file in the federal court after that. So if those people are successful in judicial review, then the court then requires the Australian government to undertake a new review of their protection visa application again. So following this, for many, what that actually means is that for many of these men, women and children, by the time their protection visa processes have actually been finalised by the Australian government, it would be a modest estimate that many of them may have been waiting for 15 years or more, is quite realistic. All this time at the mercy of the minister's personal whim on a bridging visa, without access to welfare, at risk of being deprived the right to work, study, access Medicare, and being made unlawful through no fault of their own for extended periods. So I'd like to finish by thanking Liberty Victoria's Rights Advocacy Project for committing their precious resources to this project. Over the years, this issue has rarely had the coverage it's dearly needed and deserved, including in the media, from legal commentators, parliamentary inquiries. Bridging visas and how they apply to people seeking asylum is one of the most serious but forgotten and overlooked issues affecting the sector, and more importantly, affecting men, women and children seeking asylum, human beings who live in our communities. So that's all from me. Thank you, Isabella, and thank you all. And I look forward to your questions in the Q&A.
Thank you for that, Greg. You managed to synthesize some very complicated, arbitrary and vague situations into quite palatable information. And we've been very lucky to be able to pick Greg's brain on many issues relating in our report. So thank you so much for your support and for being with us tonight. So now I'd like to jump over to the other side of the issue, I guess, and I'll welcome Bridget Arthur to talk to her experiences working in the community to support these people and whom are, who are subject to these strange and very arbitrary provisions. So thank you, Bridget.
Thanks, Isabella. I guess, first of all, thanks to Greg and Sean and the RAP team. And I guess my task is more to put a human face to this issue. Just a bit of background. Basp, since 2001, has been working with people who've had every form of visa imaginable, I think, and none. Part of the attempts to get ongoing rights for individuals and groups of people lead us to think that the situation is worse than ever from our point of view. Our small organisation, Basp, gives material assistance to people and advocates in various forums about these issues. In general, I'd say we are being stretched as never before. We rely on donations, and over the past 12 months, we have spent between 1.2 million and 1.3 million. That's over $100,000 a month on housing and emergency relief. Housing, on average, 2,060 people at any one time. This doesn't take into account that some of the housing we provide has actually been provided for us, short-term or long-term, for no rent or little rent. And so the value of that accommodation that's offered would be more like maybe 1.5 million in the year. This is clearly unsustainable, and I think that everyone in the provision of housing and emergency relief for the people that Greg has been talking about would say the same thing, that particularly if more people become are reliant on community services, then it's going to get worse, and we think that's going to happen. I'd like to talk first of all about the first category, maybe, of people without any bridging visas, and Greg talked about them. They're illegal, and of course the irony of that is that both governments at different times, both major parties, have called people coming to Australia by boat illegal, when indeed they weren't, but then they've made them illegal by not renewing or giving them bridging visas. These people live in a grey kind of twilight space in total insecurity. I'll give you a few examples just to, again, put the human face on this, and I won't use their names. I feel almost angry at not being able to use their names because that's a sort of a right of everybody. But we don't use people's names to safeguard their safety, I guess. So Abdul is a Hazara man. There's no logical reason that we can see that he doesn't have a visa. He came when he was 17 and we met him then. I think that was 2012. He says that everybody on his boat already now has a visa, an ongoing visa, and I've no reason to suspect that that's not true. There's all sorts of things we could say about any of these people, but just one thing about Abdul. He was in a relationship and it was a bit on and off, and the reason for that relationship not being ongoing was because he didn't think that he had the right to actually form an ongoing relationship with a young woman when his situation was so uncertain. Ali got a job cleaning railway platforms. He was very happy about that. Then his bridging visa expired. He had to put in for a new one. That took 4 months to get a 6-month visa. So he only had a few weeks left, and then his bridging visa expired, so no more work rights. And therefore, that's 2 or 3 years ago now. He could have had a job all that time, but because now he has no bridging visa, he hasn't been able to work at all. Mohammed, born in Chad, he was a driver for a rebel group, and when he was 18, he was forced to leave Chad, went to Saudi Arabia, got in on a false passport, so of course he was illegal there. He married, had 3 children, worked for a luxury car firm as a mechanic. Then he was picked up and told to go back to Chad. He couldn't go there, so he came by boat to Australia. He's gone right through the process. He has no bridging visa, no job, and except for the rent and emergency relief from Basp, then he would be totally destitute. And lastly, a man came in today who really touched my heart. I'll call him Noor. He was a 60-year-old, had had a heart attack not very long ago. He was weeping because of his situation, because apart from anything else, one of his grown-up children in the country he comes from has COVID. And yeah, he was just so desperate. We managed to get him a room where he doesn't have to pay rent. That house is made available to us from a religious congregation. So that's people without any bridging visas at all. But as Greg alluded, people with bridging visas also have huge challenges. Some have work rights but can't get a job. Some don't have work rights. They had no income during COVID, and those who've had jobs mainly lost them. People who've been on a bridging visa have lost the very small amount of income that used to be given to those who were both physically or mentally ill. But they've lost that. That was called SRSS, and virtually everybody has lost that now. So just a few examples of people in this sort of situation. I'll call this man Jashim. He's Rohingyan. He worked up on he came to Australia as part of the Medivac cohort. He worked up on doing fruit picking, made $6,000, worked really hard for a few months. He sent more than 5,000 of that to help his family, who are Rohingyan, in Burma, to get across the border into Thailand. And that's only the first payment. We have many of these people who now, particularly those who have been recently released from the hotel centre or the migration detention centre, saying almost frenetically, I need to get on with my life. I need a full-time job. And, you know, that's really hard for these people with no prior work experience and also with the 6-month visa. The plight of, just like to put in one plug for the plight of women and children who are seeking asylum in Australia. And I find it particularly distressing. There are so many single mothers struggling to meet their children's needs and at the same time barely surviving in terms of paying for rent and other basic necessities. It's not only single mothers, it's mothers in where the father can't work or hasn't got a job. And this situation can go on for years and years for many of these women. You know, even things like having enough money to buy school lunches for their kids. Basp has been asked by many for school books and uniform help and so on. Luckily, we have a fund that teachers in schools, and many schools actually pay into, and we've been able to help many of them with this money. Just an example maybe of one, I'll call this lady Tora. She's got 2 small children. She's battling with relationships with her partner. She has huge health issues and 2 small children. And she told me that just recently when she came in, that when they go to bed at night, she sews. I don't know, can you see this? No, you can't see it if I hold it up. That was a bit of imagination on my part.
We'll be able to see it.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you can. So you can. Well, this is all handmade, and it's a little, I don't know what it is, but anyway, handmade. It would take ages to make this thing. It's got a key ring at the top, and she's made a little card to put on each one that says something or other. And she made a whole basket of those, put them, advertised them on Facebook. Of course, nobody bought even one. And she brought them into us because we were helping her with some rent and so on, and said, just give these to anybody, just give them away because I can't sell them. I literally cried at that. I thought, how sad. So one maybe last word, how am I going for time, about TPVs and chefs. Again, Greg's talked about those. I'll just give one example of a particularly sad situation, I think, but all of these chefs and TPVs, they're one shade better than people on bridging visas, but they're not too good. Khalid left his family in Pakistan. He was originally from Afghanistan. His wife died of cancer. His eldest daughter was abducted and killed in a horrifying way. His 4 sons are eking out an existence in Quetta. And Ali here, no, what do I have to say? Khalid, sorry, when you give people other names, you sometimes forget what you call them. Khalid is working here 7 days a week in a cooking flatbread, which is over a very, very hot space. He works often 10 hours a day to try and get his children here. And that's gone on for years and years. He's buying a house so that they'll have a place to live in. And so just to conclude, the things that I have come strongly to believe, nobody should be destitute in Australia. And we are making many of the people we're talking about destitute. Families should not be separated year after year. That's draconian in any society. And the last one is about processing, fair processing. And I think any form of fair processing would mean bridging visas would be given to people, but the timelines would mean that they would be for a short time because the next part of the process would happen. They should never be discontinued where a person is here illegally, and that permanent protections, all protection visas should be permanent and not temporary. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Bridget. Yes, thank you for sharing those very touching stories, and thank you so much for your work. It's people like you really holding the ground space for these individuals. So we very much appreciate it on behalf of many, many people. Now I would like to pass over to Don Khan and Ishmael Hussein. Don, I think we had you beginning, so I'll pass over to you now to share some of your personal experiences under the immigration regime in Australia. Thank you.
So this is my turn. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for your inviting me today, speaking here on behalf of you. All my brother are still here, locked up. All of my brother here locked up, Park Present Hotel. Thank you very much for everyone attention today. I'm really grateful, organization panel as well. Thank you for your opportunity. I am Don Khan. I'm from Burma. I'm Rohingya boy. I left my country in 2013. Of course, I love my country. That is my country, that I love my family. But unfortunately, my country, I am not safe my country. I have no any facility in my country. I'm not safety. No for medically. I don't have any good medically there. Opportunity for education. So no safety in my country. That's why I left my country 2013. When I left my country in 2013, I arrived in Christmas Island, 20 October 2013. Arrived there, Christmas Island. That time I was just 17 euro. It is my first time I came from by boat in Australia. It came first time I was coming by boat this time, so I was feeling too much dizzy and headache and vomited. When I arrived there, Christmas Island, I couldn't feel. So I can't ride by myself. So unfortunately, one of my friends, he helping me. Unfortunately, he missed my birthday wrong. So I didn't know that I sent it the paper. I couldn't know because I feel very bad. I was sick. I was dizzy and vomiting that way. After 2 days or 3 days, I'm not sure, then they sent to me the ID. The ID had just a name. They don't have the birthday or anything. I don't know where's my age exactly. Then after I knew the case manager told me, I told them this is incorrect, my birthday. If I wasn't right by myself, someone of my friend, he helping me because I'm sick. I told them, and can I see the ABF? Sorry, excuse me, that they don't have ABF, that's immigration. Can I see the immigration? I would love to talk to them. I want to explain about what has happened. I am 17 euro still. I am young. I feel scared. But they never come to meet me. I did request, many requests to them. But after 3 days or 4 days, they sent me by force to Christmas time, Papua New Guinea, Manus Island. I told them, this place, I'm not safe. I feel scary. I did request many, could be thousands of people. I did request to them in the area, please, can I speak with you face to face? Come talk to me, please. I need to talk to you. But they never come to meet me. They never come to talk to me. They sent to me and the case manager. That I explained about my country. If I have document, I never come Australia because this ocean are very dangerous. Too much dangerous, no guarantee for your life. But I have no option. That's why I came Australia. Otherwise, I never come Australia. I've been honest, if I have option. But unfortunately, I don't have any option in my country. I'm not safe. I have no any facility. I never get my opportunity. I never get my human rights. I never get my justice. Always they are torture us. We are always suffering there. We are stuck that place. That's why I came Australia by foot. by boat in Australia. It doesn't mean I really want to come. No, I have no option. I came for my safety. That's why I came to Australia. It's very dangerous ocean. If I have document, I never come this country. So I told them I don't have this. Mean I'm the stateless person. I'm Rohingya. I don't have any document. How I show you my document? What is my age exactly? I don't have. It's only my mama, papa. They wrote down the book. I have that date only. Has only. I don't have any special document, any passport or any national ID or anything. I have nothing. So I told them, I just explained like that to my caseworker or case manager, both of them. But just they leave me. They never come back again. They never reply to me again. What is going to happen? Even I don't know. When I was there, Manus Island, after 1.5 months or 2 months, I'm not sure exactly. I'm sorry, my mind is a little bit very difficult situation. I couldn't recognize exactly time all the time. It's hard for me to recognize. So I get very sick. And to my sick, then I told the God, my friend going to talk to them. I am very sick. They come to me, said I'm very serious sick. Then they took to me IHMS. Because I'm very serious, they took to me the IHMS emergency. Just 3 days continue, I was very serious. Sick and headache and dizzy. Because I told them I couldn't sleep this situation. I feel very, very scary. I feel not safe this place. Then they sent to the doctor decision. The young man is very sick. He cannot stay here anymore. He has to go emergency to hospital. Both must be hospital in capital city of PNG. They sent to me quickly the emergency flight. Then when I arrived there, they took to me. Then they said, what is happening? First they said, I have to get malaria. I get sick. After 2 days, said, no malaria, we are wrong. You are the no malaria, you had to get TB glorious. You are sick. Then they did me many medicine, the missed medicine, wrong medicine they gave me. I was drinking too much. So, okay, I drink medicine. They give me again TB glorious medicine they gave me. I drink medicine. I told them I'm still headache and burning my chest. All the time, a headache and burning, just I can't eat anything. I can't sleep. I have too many bad dreams. I told them. It is very hard to me. I told them, but they just give me same medicine. Then after I think that 2 weeks, the hospital, they sent back to me again, Manus Island. After 2 months or something, they returned back again to me, the hospital. Same thing, they did 3 times. Same treatment. Then when the professor, doctor, this wrote down to me, I am the feeling well done. I told in front of the doctor, excuse me, doctor, I am still feel very suffering. I'm not feeling well. How you do it in front of me, the paper sent to the immigration, I am feel better. I'm telling you, still I am feel very bad. I couldn't sleep. I feel very suffering. But the God that time, in that time, the G4S, the G4S said, excuse me, Don, you are not allowed to speak with the doctor. They just stopped me. So I can't say anything to doctor. I can't explain about what I feel. Then just return back to me, same back there. Manus Island, same, they give me continued medicine for 6 months. But still I have the suffering, headache, burning my chest all the time. That's a going continue. After 6 months, they finish medicine. They said, Don, you are finished, your medicine is finished, everything. Okay, I said, do you have any guarantee I'm feel good and my sickness is gone out of my body, and any guarantee? When they said, doctor said, GP said, no, we don't have any guarantee. Could be anytime can come back your body. We have no guarantee at the moment you are better. That's all. I have no I tried to explain, but he did not listen. He refused to listen to me. He said, that's all finished down. You can leave now. So I again go back to my compound. I was at my compound. I told them I can't eat. When I eat, I had too much burning my chest all the time and headache. Because special, I can't sleep. I have every night has the bad dream. I see that people are running, fighting. I saw the fire, many trouble. My mind coming. But in whole my life, I never happened in my country as well. This is first time when I arrived in the offshore. The Manus Island has happened. I told them I feel very suffering. I'm very suffering. I'm very worried my situation now. Please help me. Then they gave me same medicine, Panadol and Panadol and Panadol. Same. If I have anything, they gave me Panadol and other day for just sleeping medicine. Then I take continued. After 2015, I was feel very badly. Then even I didn't say include in 2015 and 2014. I was many times in the IHMS for emergency, just emergency, 2-3 days. Just that trick me, just put some drink to me my body. Then I feel a little bit better. They send back to me the my compound. So something many times. Then 2015, I was very serious sick again. Then I was the IHMS, the emergency. Then doctor said, this young guy has to move quickly to Australia, otherwise he will be dead here. I heard my own ear. I heard that myself. Then they give me quickly after I think 5 days or 1 week. I'm not sure. They keep into IHMS. Then they sent to me Brisbane in 2015. I was in 2015. I was the Mata Hospital and 3D. They took to me. They said, this guy, young guy, is okay, but this is his problem, the mental health problem. He physically is all right, mentally problem. So you have to send to another hospital. After 3 days, they sent to me the Pine River Hospital in Brisbane, mental health hospital. They took to me 2.5 months in hospital. Because I'm trying to talk to you, because I know many people have to talk. That's why I'm trying to fish. So 2.5 months, I was the treatment to the Pine River Hospital. After 2.5 months, they sent to me the Beta camp in Brisbane Beta camp. I was again 2.5 months the Beta camp, or something 3 months like that. Then totally more than 5 months in Brisbane. They sent to me the PNG again. I told them I feel very bad. I have still my appointment is left. I'm not feeling my mental health appointment as well in outside as well, both outside. But they reviewed. They said just order from minister, you should go. Then they sent by force to me, sent back to the Papua New Guinea again. I was very sick that time. I feel very badly. Then 2015, still same. I take medicine. They gave me medicine for sleeping medicine, for relaxing medicine. And when I feel very bad, I don't know what kind of injection to me. They give me injection my body. 24 hours, I don't know anything. I just fall down. I dizzy. I couldn't stand up myself. I can't wake up for myself. But I know everything. I can't stand up and I feel because all the war are just dizzy for me. It's very difficult to stand up. I don't know what kind of injection they put me. Then they send back to me my compound again. Same thing like that many times. I didn't count how many, at least more than 5 times they did like injection to me. When I was, one time they put it, then send back to me when I feel bad. Again, they stuck to me in the emergency, again the injection. I don't know what kind of injection. They didn't explain to me. I asked them what kind of injection this one. I feel very dizzy. I feel very hard. My body become very shaking hold of my body. Please let me know. But they never explain me what kind of medicine. I've been honest. So I beg, sometimes I did like that. Then 2019, I feel again very sick. They sent to me there. I was the Manus Island Hospital. Manus Island Hospital. I was sick, very sick. Then I was at that hospital on, I think, almost 3 weeks or 4 weeks like that, include. They sent to me again to the Port Moresby Hospital, PIH, I forgot, I'm sorry. So that hospital, big hospital in Port Moresby. They took to me and almost 1 month, they said, you have to go in Australia for treatment, for Medival. I told them for what? They said Medival. We will give you special special hospital, we will special treatment for you. We had in Australia for you. I said, are you sure you will give me good treatment for me? They said, yes. Then they sent to me in Australia, in Brisbane. I was first time, I was Brisbane. Then Kangaroo Point Hotel. I was there more than 5 months. I never seen in hospital where this hospital. Same they give me for sleeping pill and for relaxing my medication, for relaxing my body. If I too much pain, they give me Panadol, same thing. Then again, I did request for, I have the uncle to Sydney. Can I transfer to the Sydney camp, please? They said, you all cannot go. They just hold me here in the Kangaroo Point. I don't know what they plan, I don't know. Then after 1 month, they call me, immigration call me, Don, you have to go tomorrow in the Melbourne. I say, all right, because I don't have power to refuse or anything to them. I say, all right, okay, I will go. Then they sent to me the Mantra Hotel. I was Mantra Hotel near to 1 year, yes, 1 year. I never seen hospital. Where is this hospital in Australia? Or maybe no hospital, I don't know. I'm not sure. I used to be very confused still. I was there 1 year suffering, same thing. I had everyday bad dream. I couldn't sleep. I had the feel bad. I hear in the voice, sometimes someone that calling me. I look up, I didn't see anyone. I just hear in the voice. So this is very hard for me. So again, I'm still here in the Park Hotel. I'm stuck. We came in Australia, same policy, same medieval law. Our friend, or a lot of friends, more than 135 people are going to release. I'm really happy for them who give the permission with them. I'm really happy for them. But they still holding me here in the present in Park Hotel. Then my country also, the government that cover my country. My family are not safe, my Burma country. Special already not safe, and now the more difficult. The investigation every day, where you are, what is your name, what is your ID? So we don't have any document. This is very suffering for me. My family are not safe in Burma. Australia government is still holding me in here. What is my crime? I want my justice. I want my freedom. I just request. I'm not complaining anyone. I am the refugee 2016. I got my United States refugee. I'm still in detention center. What is my crime? Please, I need a release. I need my freedom. I'm sorry. I need my freedom. Justice, I want my freedom only. Still, we are the 120 people still there, locked up in the onshore in Australia. 120. So 135 people are released. We are came same medieval law, same law. What is different? Why in Australia government make us each law? It make him very upset. We beg you, please, raise your voice, supporting us, please. We need your support. Without your people, we cannot survive here. we can get out of this place. All please supporting us. Don't leave us. Also, my country is, I didn't anything say yet about my country. I have a lot of talking, but I'm sorry, I don't have time. I know a lot of people want to talk. I'm really, thank you so much for your opportunity. Give me this. Thank you so much for your attention and listen to me. Appreciate that, everyone. And thank you for your organization panel as well. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, it's the least we can do to listen to you. So thank you for being here. Unfortunately, we're running quite short on time, so I'll pass over to Ishmael now. Thank you, Ishmael. If you, just in the interest of time, we might just have to cut you a little bit short so we have time to ask maybe one question and show our animation at the end. So sorry about that, but thank you.
It's all right, dear. Thank you very much. And hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this. I'm appreciating to the organizers and all the attendees and the panel. I'm Ishmael Hussein, one of the refugees that still held on Park Hotel. I arrived in Australia by boat at the end of 2013. I remember it was November. And after 5 days and 5 nights on the ocean, we were intercepted by the Navy and, Australian Customs or Navy. And, while we were still on the boat, they talked to us through a microphone, and then they told us, there is a law passed which we were not aware of, and they said it's called 19 July law, and it says everyone who comes by boat after that they will be sent to offshore processing. And also we didn't have any idea of what offshore processing was at that time, and they told us you will be sent there, otherwise make a choice now, turn back your boat and go back to Indonesia. We've been already 5 days and 5 nights on the ocean and we ran out of food and water. We ran out of oil for the engine of the boat, and they told us, make a choice and decision and turn back to where you come from. We didn't have a choice and we couldn't go back, so we insisted, and then they removed us from the boat, the shipping boat that we were in, and then they put us in their Navy ship, took us to Darwin Immigration Detention Center. And I remember it was afternoon around 5 o'clock, and that we didn't get enough sleep for 5 days and 5 nights, and they didn't even wait till morning to process. They kept us awake all night, going through the fingerprints, taking blood, even though we were being dehydrated and very hungry. So and then they kept us all night, and after just 2 days we were sent to Papua New Guinea, Manus Island, and where we spent almost 6 years and a half. When we get there, there was nothing going on at all. There was no process. It took to them, I think, we get there at the end of November, and some people were already there starting from 1st of August until February 2014. There was no process going at all. There was nothing process of, protection claim. And then on 2014, we have to protest to get process. I mean, claim process. That protest ended up in, violently, and then we've been attacked by the security contractor at that time called G4S, by the local people, and also mobile squad or police from PNG. One asylum seeker have been killed and more than 70 have been injured during that time. And after that, they started the process, and and then they start recognizing people, or processing their claims. Some have been recognized as refugees, some didn't. It took quite some time. I personally was recognized as a refugee in 2016. I think sometime between March or April. I can't exactly remember the date. And since then, even though I was recognized as a refugee, I was still held in detention indefinitely until last year. Not last year, 2019. We've been medevaced to Australia to get medical treatment. Furthermore, all the diagnosis and the problems that we were suffering that caused to be medevaced to Australia is caused by the indefinite detention that we were on Manus Island. And before that, I didn't have any symptoms. At the moment, I'm suffering with some physical and mental problems, and it's all caused the indefinite detention that we were put in. Since we arrived in Australia, we didn't get the treatment that we came here for. We've been dumped in hotel rooms which didn't have any access to fresh air or sunlight, and we were kept at Montreal Hotel for a year. In one floor of the hotel. We were not able to access another floor or outside of the hotel. And then December last year, we have been moved to a Park Hotel, where we still at the moment. And as most of you guys may be aware, we were quite some refugees who've been medevaced. The majority have been released all of a sudden, just one day, and they come and they release the majority of it. And a few of us have been left behind with no clear reason. We've been asking the department, the case manager, and everyone who have a say about it, and they were not able to give us any clear answer. The only answer that they were saying and keep repeating is the minister is the one who has power to sign the visa, and he didn't for you. And it just doesn't make sense. We came at the same time on the same medevac bill. The majority have been released, and we are still here. And there is no clear answer for us why we are still detained. And going back to the time you arrived, it's actually ridiculous, how the immigration policy works. It's injustice, it's unfair. The people who we came the same boat, the people who we came the same boat. Now I can divide them in 3 different categories. One of that group was never sent to offshore processing, and they were on Christmas Island or other mainland detention centers, and they were never sent to offshore processing. And after only 1 year, they've been released to community. And at the moment, they are holding this visa called 5-year visa. I don't know what's exactly the name. Maybe Greg have more information about that. But it's called, they have 5 years visa, which allows them to travel overseas wherever they want, except their home country. That's one group. There's another group who have been sent to offshore processing, and then they have to be returned back to Australia for medical reasons. And some of them, they were brought here as early as 2014. And up to now, all they got is Brigidine visa, which will be renewed every 6 months. And they still have, no permanent solution. Every 6 months is just renewed. And again, there's a third category, which is me and the people who are in the same situation as me, who are still detained without any clear reason, despite being recognized refugee 5 years ago. And you can see how injustice and unfair it is. What's the difference? We all came at the same boat at the same time. Some are able to travel out and see their families. Some have work rights and Medicare, and they are in the community. And I and some other guys are still detained with no clear reason. So it's ununderstandable, and it doesn't make sense at all. It's injustice, and it's just so ridiculous, so ridiculous. People who came at the same time at the same boat are on the same boat are now, in 3 different situations, and we are left behind here with no clear reason. The people who even come together at the same plane to be medevac to Australia, some are released into community with Brigidine visa, with work rights, and we are here still in detention, suffering. So it's just ridiculous how the immigration system in Australia works, and the power is to the minister. No one can say anything against him or against her, whoever the immigration home affairs minister is, and he only decides our fate, when to release us or how long he wants to keep us here. Because there's no time frame. There's no limited time, or there's no time saying that the person can be in detention. It says a person coming, unauthorized or unlawful maritime can be held in detention unless the minister grants them a visa or removed from Australia. So that means he can keep you in detention forever if he wants, without any clear reason. I don't think we have done anything to deserve to be in this situation. We seek asylum. We've been recognized as a refugee. We haven't done any crime. We haven't committed anything wrong. We were just simply asking for protection. Why we still kept? Even he doesn't have an answer for us. Even, if there is something, there should be, we will be the first one to be told. Because of these reasons, we cannot let you into our community. It's understandable. But I myself believe I haven't done anything wrong to be detained. But it's going 8 years. 8 years of indefinite detention. I don't know how long more it will take. We are suffering here. Got very physical and mental problems. I'm a father of 2 kids. I haven't seen my kids for 8 years. My son was only 2 years when I left him. Now he's going to 10, and I've never been there for him. I've never seen him growing, and they're still keeping me in this detention without any clear reason. There has to be some change in the way the immigration department works and how they grant visas.
Ishmael, that might be a good time to cut in. I'm sorry for cutting you short. We really appreciate you sharing with us, and going back to what you were saying, how random some people are let out on bridging visas and some people aren't. We almost see it as the minister is playing a tax lotto board with people's human rights, and it's absolutely unacceptable. And we hear you, and we will be listening to you until you are released from the hotel. So I'm sorry to cut this short, but we run quite out of time. We are going to show our animation now, and we've noticed some great questions come up on the chat, which we will be answering on the Facebook event. So stay tuned for that. It's a shame that we can't answer the questions now, but we think it's really important that we heard from each one of the panelists' experiences. So we can't thank you enough. And we'll leave you with our animation. Please view our report, spread the word, and thank you so much for listening to us and helping us launch this important piece of work.
Everyone who comes to Australia seeking safety and protection from war and danger should have access to the essentials in life, such as healthcare and the ability to work. But right now, the Home Affairs Minister, Peter Dutton, is barring people from accessing the essentials. Under Australian law, people who arrive by boat or have been transferred to Australia for medical treatment from Manus Island or Nauru cannot receive a bridging visa without Peter Dutton's consent. A bridging visa is a temporary visa which can allow someone to work, study, and receive basic medical and income support while they wait for the outcome of their refugee visa application. The Department of Home Affairs can take years to process refugee visa applications. Without access to a bridging visa during this waiting period, people are forced to live in destitution for many years. During the pandemic, as charities struggle to meet increasing need, people without access to a bridging visa are at even greater risk of illness, homelessness, and turning to illegal and unsafe work to feed their families. COVID-19 has shown us that we cannot get through this together if some members of our community are left behind. Fortunately, there is a better way. By writing to your local MP, you can let our leaders know that people seeking asylum in Australia deserve access to basic services while awaiting outcomes on their visa process. You can also read our report into this issue to find out more. If you'd like to help further, you can do so by donating to organisations that are currently assisting people with their bridging visa process and providing material support.
Great. So that concludes our launch for this evening. We apologise that we ran out of time for questions. It's always a bit hard to gauge things, especially in an online environment. So thank you all for your patience. And we will collect the questions because there were some really great questions in the chat. So please look out, and we'll be answering, sending them to the speakers and answering them hopefully on the Facebook event in the next week. So keep an eye out for that. But more so, thank you all for your support, and a big thank you to the speakers and everyone involved.